as most of you know, my name's Jay Nannini. I'm president here at Lake Clarke Gardens. I'm so pleased to see such a good turnout for tonight. You know, these are issues that we've discussed and concerns that we've had. Can I have your attention, please? So there's been many, many concerns expressed, questions. So this is your opportunity. You know, we have tried to find people who will listen to our concerns, and we're very pleased that the commissioner volunteered to be here this evening. So right now I'd like to introduce County Commissioner of District 3, Mr. Michael Barnett. Thank you.
Very honored to be here with you, and thank you for the opportunity and for the invitation to share a little bit and to bring some very capable people from our county leadership team in our legislative affairs and intergovernmental department. My name is Michael Barnett. You can call me Mike. I'm your county commissioner for District 3. I represent Lake Clarke Shores, Palm Springs, Green Acres, where I live, West Lake Worth, West Palm Beach, Cloud Lake, Glen Ridge, and unincorporated areas of our county, including 4,000 condo residents, including all of you here. Just a few housekeeping items. We have Channel 20, the county television station here, recording, and we're going to make this recording available for all of you if you want to watch it later, or any residents who are not able to attend tonight. You can view it in its entirety. And everyone tonight will have an opportunity to share your story, because that's why I'm here. Not to run off at the mouth myself, but to hear what you have to say. Over the last several months, we've gotten a lot of traction in Tallahassee and support for legislative sessions, support for demanding that Tallahassee find a solution to this problem they caused because of people like you speaking out and sharing your stories. When I first began hearing about these problems associated with this legislation, I became very upset and confused as to why the legislature created this law in the first place. We understand that Surfside was a terrible tragedy and something had to be done. But we see it sometimes, and in this case, the cure is turning out to be just as bad or worse than the disease itself. We know that you need more time. The deadline is December 31st to have these assessments conducted, and 3 months is not enough time for many of you in this room. We know that the SIRS, the reserve studies, need to be conducted to make the repairs, and they have to be done safely and immediately. But we were also told that this was a state issue and that there was nothing that the county could do. That wasn't a solvable solution for Palm Beach County. I'm not the one to take no for an answer, and you can ask our friend Ed Chase, he knows that very well. Where there's a will, there's a way, and if you're hurting, my constituents are hurting, then you have my commitment, at least, to search for a solution. We started collecting signatures. We sent out letters. We had our team in the 12th floor, not just my office, but neighboring commissioner's office and her staff, helping to stuff thousands of letters that you received in your mailboxes, informing you, if you didn't already know, of this crisis, and asking you to sign a petition to show support, to get the legislator to convene a special session of the legislature to address this condo fee special assessment crisis. We called on the governor and the Senate president and the House Speaker to do something. And I think they're hearing us. You may have heard in the last couple of weeks, Governor DeSantis himself was on the news saying condo owners need relief, and the legislature created this mess they need to find a solution. We needed bigger voices. We needed the grassroots voices, but we also need our local leaders. So I went to the Board of County Commissioners, my fellow board members, and unanimously received permission to send a letter to our legislature so we could speak as one united voice and demand a special session of the legislature. And the response has been incredible. Ask Kayla, ask Sasha, Laura. We've received hundreds of emails, petitions signed and returned to us. They've been pouring into our office, and we've been receiving these petitions by email attached with your own personal stories, and they are pretty tragic. I'm sure you know about what happened to a young lady of 96 years named Joyce. And we've been given permission to share her story, and I hope we hear your stories too. She worked her entire life, retired, lived in Lake Clarke Gardens happily. Her condo fees went up $300 to $1,200 per month. Her family didn't know it, but unbeknownst to them, it was too late. She became distraught over the inability to pay her bills, and she took her own life. May she rest in peace. Now her family is living with this nightmare as well, because Tallahassee didn't think about how their knee-jerk reaction in creating this legislation was going to hurt regular people, real people like you. Seniors don't have the ability to create more finances, shouldn't be asked when they have planned for their retirement. This is their retirement. These are their golden years. Shouldn't have to come to you and ask you to take out a second mortgage or a reverse mortgage to pay these assessments, pay these fees. Not in your golden years. There are so many other stories, and I want you to be brave enough to come to the microphone and share them, please. Because we can't do it without your help. As you can see, the response has been incredible. We are moving people, the powers that be in Tallahassee, and there's a very strong chance the legislature is going to deal with this before the end of the year. Whether they find a solution is another story, but we are, because of our loud voice and united voice, making changes in Tallahassee with regards to this law that almost nobody else in power seemed to know or care about. But I want to get to our program now. We have very capable and smart and talented people who are going to share with you more information about the history going back to 2008. Palm Beach County Director of Legislative Affairs, Ed Chase, and Palm Beach County Director of Intergovernmental Affairs and the Community Engagement, Casey Denny. I want to thank them for putting together this presentation you're about to see. And I want to just say one more word of housekeeping. Again, you're going to have your opportunity to speak, to share your comments. We're going to limit those comments to 3 minutes per person so that we have enough time to get through everybody who wants to speak. Remember, this is being recorded on Channel 20 on Zoom. It's going to be blasted everywhere. Everybody's going to hear about your stories and how this law, this bad law, needs to be changed and how it's affecting you. Ed Chase, thank you.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy to see so many of you out here on a beautiful Monday night. It's a pleasure. I want to thank Commissioner Barnett for inviting Casey and myself to come and talk with you about the law that's in place. So I want to just take a few minutes and go over what we're currently facing and kind of how we got here. So we'll talk a little about sort of the brief state legislative history that got us to this point, where we are in our current situation with regard to condo safety. We'll talk about the milestone inspection law that Commissioner Barnett just spoke about. We'll talk about the reserve funding study that also needs to be done. We'll talk about what requirements are going to be made of condominiums going forward. And we'll talk about a little bit about what can possibly be done at the state level to help fix this problem. So a brief legislative history on condo safety. It began back in 2008 when the state legislature passed a law that required condominium inspections every 5 years. That bill passed the House 110-0 and passed the Senate 40-0. It sailed through the legislature and went into place later that year. Owners, however, had the opportunity to waive those requirements if they had sufficient votes to do so. So it turned out to be more of an encouragement than an obligation. But under pressure, 2 short years later, the legislature repealed that law under pressure from condo attorneys, real estate lawyers, condo associations, and property managers who said that those inspection requirements were just too burdensome for them to do. So back in 2008, by a vote of 111-3 in the House and 39-0 in the Senate, that condo inspection law was repealed. So after that repeal, that left little, if really no, oversight of condo association inspections and financing, and that's what brought us to this point right now. So as you know, our current condo situation that we're facing, some condominiums in the state were not very well maintained over the course of 20, 30, or 40 years, and are now maybe deemed unsafe under the new inspection law. Florida law used to allow associations to waive collecting reserve funds, so many condominiums do not have adequate reserves to make the upgrades and the maintenance that these inspections now require, and that leaves associations and you in a very untenable situation. It also means that condo associations may have to look for loans to try to make some of these repairs and upgrades. Associations are now facing insurance issues. They might be facing non-renewal because an insurance company might say, you haven't done your inspection and you haven't fully funded your reserves, and you might not have even started on your upgrades yet, so we're going to non-renew you as an insurance company. And you, as owners, you're facing what will be increased fees and most likely increased assessments to pay for these upgrades and maintenance. So how did we get here after the 2010 repeal? Well, it was this date, Thursday, June 24th, at 1:22 in the morning, when that building, Champlain Towers in Surfside, partially collapsed. It was 12 stories high, it killed 98 people, and it was exactly 40 years old. That happened in June of 2021, and the legislature met the following January to take up their regular session and could not agree on how to address that situation in the regular session. They had to extend into a special session, and that brought us Senate Bill 4D. And that is the bill that required these milestone safety inspections for condominiums 3 stories or higher that are a certain years of age. So these milestone inspections turned out to be very rigorous inspections that must be done by a licensed architect or a licensed engineer. They have to be done once the building reaches 30 years of age, and then every 10 years after that. If a building 3 stories or higher is within 3 miles of the coastline, then those milestone inspections must start when the building is 25 years old. And then it must be inspected every 10 years after that. So if a condominium 3 stories or higher was completed, built before 1992 or built before 1997 on the coach, that milestone initial safety inspection must be completed by December 31st of this year. It also requires that if they find certain problems in that first inspection, then a phase 2 inspection must be done. And this study cannot be waived. If it falls under those categories, it must be done. That study must be complete by the end of this year. And that inspection covers a number of things in state statute. It includes the roof. It includes the structural integrity of the beams, load-bearing walls, fireproofing and fire protection systems like sprinklers, plumbing and electrical systems, waterproofing and exterior painting, windows and exterior doors, and other items that have a replacement cost of more than $10,000. So part of this inspection, physical inspection, now includes a reserve study inspection as well. So again, if a condominium is 3 stories higher, this reserve study includes, you have to now study to figure out whether you have the reserves in funding for future major repairs and replacement of the common elements based on that visual inspection. Owner-controlled condominiums that existed prior to 2022 must have that reserve study done by the end of this year, and then must be done every 10 years thereafter. So now we get into the problem of funding, and it's a big problem. So condo association budgets that are passed after December 31st of this year, those future budgets must include financial plans to maintain the structural integrity of the condominium. They must contain financial plans for necessary repairs going forward. The study cannot be waived. Budgets going forward cannot be underfunded. And we all need to know that these reserve requirements could require special assessments and increased dues due to the increased need to fund these necessary repairs. So, here's a couple of things that are very important to know. The law does not require reserves to be fully funded at the completion of the study. If the study is done in November and you're putting together your budget for next year and you have a $2 million roof that needs to be fixed, you don't have to have $2 million in your reserve account, but you must have a plan to start funding for that. And that required reserve is going to be calculated on the estimating remaining useful life and estimated replacement cost of that item. So if you know the estimate's going to be $2 million, you don't need to have $2 million in the bank come January of 2025 or 2026, but you're going to need a sound plan on how to get there. So timing, so if a condominium budget is adopted on or before December 31st of this year, then that condominium board or that condominium, they may vote to waive those increases in fees for the year 2025. Come January 1st of 2026, that financial plan must be in place. But that's only if the budget is adopted on or before December 31st of this year. If it's adopted after January 31st of this year or anytime in 2025 going forward, then you may not waive those reserves and need to begin funding those reserves in the study. So what can be done? Very clearly and very simply, this is a state problem. This is a state legislative problem that, due to an attempt back in 2008 to do it, just didn't quite work. And that repeal, that left us in this kind of the Wild West of associations maybe not planning ahead or not voting to raise enough funding going forward. Commissioner Burnett talked about asking for a legislative special session. That may be the only way to solve this issue. The legislature is going to have to address this, and there's really two things that they might be able to do to help all of us out. Number one, and Commissioner Burnett spoke about it briefly, is if they have a special session in November, which is possible, then before the end of the year, they can vote to extend those reserve requirement deadlines farther, so that you're not stuck with trying to fund a $2 million roof in a year or two. I've heard maybe extending it 2 years, I've heard maybe extending it 5 years, I've heard maybe extending it 10 years. But that's something that needs to be talked about, and the legislature needs to talk about that sooner rather than later. Another thing that the legislature might decide to do is to set up an assessment loan program. And it might be modeled after the one that is in Miami-Dade County right now. They put a small amount of money, $9 million, not a lot. Miami-Dade put that aside, and that's a special pot of money that they now can loan out to help owners, full-time resident owners of condominiums, help them pay these fees and assessments. Miami-Dade, for example, they are loans up to $50,000. You have to be a full-time resident. You cannot earn more than 140% of the local area median income level, and it's a 40-year loan at 0%. It sounds great, but it was only funded with $9 million. And if you had 180 people apply for those loans and get $50,000, that's all you would run that fund out in $9 million with 180 people. So this might be something that the legislature can look at, use some of their reserves in Tallahassee to create a similar type of fund. Make it available to full-time residents, make it available, maybe it could be income aided or income guidance. But again, this is something that needs to be done before the end of the year. Hence, that's why Commissioner Barnett asked the legislature for a special session. I think the commissioner is going to make this PowerPoint available to you. Two things that I want to note on the very top there. There are two websites by the State Department of Business and Professional Regulation. There's very minimal oversight of condominiums, but that's the one agency that does have a little bit of oversight. If you want a full, very immersive hour-and-a-half webinar on the nuts and bolts of this issue, they have a fantastic webinar that you can look up and watch, and that's the top recording there. They also have a very detailed frequently asked questions page, FAQ page, that may help you with some of the easier questions to ask about what this law actually currently does. But I will leave you with that, and you can go to both of those sites that might help you get some of your questions answered. Again, I want to thank Commissioner Barnett. He's been on this issue from the very beginning. He's pushed Casey and myself to work with the legislature to try to help solve this issue. And again, I think with his leadership, we can, again, try to encourage our state senators and our state representatives to get this problem solved in a special session this fall. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and if we have any questions we can answer, we'll stick around for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ed Chase. Once again, we're going to open up the forum to you. We're going to allow you to let your voices be heard. We want to make sure that everyone who signed the petition or hasn't had a chance to sign the petition, there are copies on the back table. We can make the online petition available for you if you'd like to do it online. It's just as good, and it gets the point across just as good. We have, my staff will be walking around with microphones. If you're able to stand, great. If not, raise your hand and someone will come to you. We're going to hand you the microphone. Please feel free to let us know what's on your mind with regards to this issue, the condo special assessments crisis. If you have questions, we'll do our very best to answer them. We'll go ahead and start now. We have Sasha all the way in the back in the black shirt. And do we have anybody else? Laura up here in the other black shirt with the microphone. I guess I'm going to keep time, but try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, please. Thank you.
My name is Diane O'Shea. I am Vice President of the board here. Commissioner Barnett, we are very grateful for your interest. We've had very little interest from any politicians. It's my understanding the head of the Florida Senate rejected the governor's request for another session to consider our plight. I don't know if that's true, but I think it is. You asked about me, so I'm going to tell you about me. I'm 88. I live on my Social Security and some savings which are to take care of my health. I have cancer, and last week I received a bill for one injection, and I can't even pronounce the name of it, but it was for $2,632. This community, $2,632, and I have to pay off. This community is very well taken care of. It has been for the 13 years that I've been here, and I believe it will continue to. We do assessments when they're called for. The SB 4D has required my maintenance to go up from $378 to $718 to $1,129 this year. It took months for us to get engineers, so a lot of that time was wasted. Then more for them to come and examine our 24 buildings because we are 24 separate condominiums. After that, we waited for their reports. Not until those could come in could we begin to plan for budgets to find out how much we were going to owe, and finally present them to our 855 unit owners. We are working on reserves painfully. We are hoping for an extension, at least 18 to 24 months, to gather them without penalty. And I understand there can be penalties. Why would they make a very difficult situation even harder? I hope that others will tell you their stories. We are all in a difficult place. Thank you again for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your comments. Who else would like to speak, please?
Buenas noches. Mi especial agradecimiento al County de Palm Beach por su preocupación y apoyo incondicional a la causa que hoy nos convoca.
Thank you for being here. We thank Palm Beach County for your concerns and your unconditional support for being here for this cause that has us all united.
Mientras miles de propietarios de otros condominios recién están conociendo la ley de reservas, en nuestro condominio el board ya nos aplicó la ley en julio del 2023. ¿Qué mejor ejemplo lo que está pasando en Lake Clarke Gardens para modificar, o en el mejor de los casos, para anular la ley y retomar el sistema anterior?
While other owners of other condominiums are just now learning about this situation of the reserves, in this condominium, the board already has made the law applicable as of July 2023. What a good example Lake Clarke Garden has in what's happening here to help modify the best of cases to see what has happened in Lake Clarke Gardens, so this law can be modified to take back what we had before.
En nuestro condominio, la ley de reservas que debería aplicarse el año 2025 ya fue aplicada por el board desde el 2023. A pesar de que la mayoría de propietarios nos opusimos al pago, se impuso porcentajes arbitrarios.
Here at our condominium, this law of reserves that should have been applicable in 2025 has already been applied since 2023, even though most of us owners were opposed to these payments they gave us were unjust.
Muchos propietarios de avanzada edad, los más vulnerables de nuestra comunidad, con enfermedades crónicas propias de su edad, no asistieron a las reuniones, y otros, quienes no conocían la ley, temerosos de perder sus propiedades, eligieron, entre comillas, pagar el 60%, y los que nos opusimos y propusimos el 0%, fuimos penalizados con el pago del 100%.
Here at our condominium, this law of reserves should be applicable in 2025, has already been applied since 2023. Even though most of us owners were opposed to these payments they gave us were unjust. Many owners of advanced age, which most of us are vulnerable and have chronic illnesses, did not attend the gathering or meetings or weren't able to. And other owners that didn't understand the law because they feared losing their properties elected to pay the 60%. The ones that were opposed to the payments and proposed a zero, we felt penalized and we had to pay 100%. We were obligated.
Nos obligaron a pagar dichos porcentajes basados en el informe de reservas del año 2020, sin darnos la opción de seguir reclamando ni de proponer otro porcentaje que estuviera a nuestro alcance o de sugerir que se realice un nuevo estudio que muestre cifras reales del 2023. Tenemos la documentación sustentatoria de todos nuestros intentos de postergar el cobro de reservas y múltiples reclamos que hicimos porque necesitábamos un tiempo más para tomar previsiones económicas para afrontar el nuevo gasto.
Okay. Obligated to pay the reserves based on the milestone inspection from 2020 without giving us a choice to offer different amount that we could afford to pay. It could have been decided to do a current evaluation so we could see the amounts needed based on the study done in 2023. We have the documentation of our attempts to postpone the increased rates of reserves and multiple claims we did because we needed a heads up or more time to take economic measures in order to be more prepared to face our new payments.
En este año 2024 se elaboró un segundo informe de reservas por cuyo resultado estamos pagando un 65% más hasta fines de junio del 2025 y los que pagaron el 60% actualmente están aportando el 100% adicional. Para nosotros el año fiscal empieza en julio y tenemos que alcanzar millones de dólares que en este momento no se sabe cuánto es. Esta situación nos afecta mucho financieramente y nos causa malestar porque no nos sentimos representados ni defendidos por el board, sino por el contrario, abandonados por ellos.
This year, in 2024, we obtained a new study of reserves, of which results have given us in order to pay 65% till the end of June 2025. And those that paid 60% last year are now paying 100%. For us, our budget year starts in July, and we have to reach an amount of millions of dollars. At the moment, we don't know what that amount is. This situation is affecting us financially, causing undue stress because we don't feel represented by the board or defended, or on the contrary, they make us feel abandoned.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Para la próxima nuestro pedido, faltan los pedidos.
We have to,
She wants to give a solution now. Can she give the solution?
we have a lady who wants to volunteer her 3 minutes to you.
Es el segundo año pagando reservas y pedimos al Poder Legislativo que tome en cuenta nuestro caso para evitar que se repita el mismo error en otros condominios. Con la experiencia que estamos viviendo, me permito hacer los siguientes pedidos.
This is the second year of paying reserves, and we ask the legislation that the powers of the legislation be used to learn from what's happening here at Lake Clarke Gardens to prevent this from happening in other condominiums with our experience in asking for the following. This is what we're asking.
1. Solicito auditoría financiera y administrativa de nuestros fondos de reserva pagados desde el 2023 hasta la fecha. 2. Revisión de los informes de los estudios de reserva del año 2020 y del 2023 para que no existan dudas sobre sus resultados y para que el board no tenga el poder total tanto de realizar contratos de estudios y del manejo de cifras de reserva que llegan a millones de dólares y ganando intereses en los bancos. Sabemos que el poder absoluto corrompe absolutamente. 3. Que nuestras reservas acumuladas sean intangibles hasta que se logre la modificación de la ley de reservas, o en el mejor de los casos, pedimos la devolución de los montos pagados hasta la fecha, porque estamos seguros de que la nueva ley nos dará facilidades de pago. Y si se presentara el caso de pagar una reparación en el edificio, lo pagaremos en forma equitativa entre los propietarios, como lo hacíamos con el sistema anterior, en el que no hubo ningún problema. 4. No pagar el monto de las reservas a partir de noviembre de este año hasta que se modifique la ley. Solo pagaremos el mantenimiento de nuestras unidades. Además, esperaremos el resultado de la auditoría financiera y administrativa que estamos pidiendo a Tallahassee.
1 minute left.
Okay, now I gotta interpret that, okay? All right. Okay, this is what we're asking for. I ask for a financial audit, an administrative audit, and of the amount of reserves that have been collected since 2023 to current. I ask for a revision of the reserve study of 2020 and 2023 so we don't have doubt over the results and the amounts. So that the board doesn't have the powers of getting contracts and studies and the management of the handling of all the millions of dollars and of reserves and making interest in the banks. We know that absolute power can be can get corrupted. That our accumulated reserves are protected until this law is modified, and best case scenario is to get our money back. We are sure that the changes of the legislation that are come will make it easier for us to pay if we have to pay for repairs that we pay as we used to do before in assessments. Another option is to stop payment in November until the law is modified. We will pay only the maintenance of our units and will ask for results of audits that we asked Tallahassee to do. By the way, our maintenance somehow went up. We never were told what that was exactly.
Thank you very much. Over here?
It may hurt someone who have insurance stuff. I didn't hear anything about the insurance. Last time at the meeting, I heard that we almost paying $2 million a year. Now that's a little bit added because all buildings are cement. It will never fall apart. It's been hurricane, just a thing. So we have to do something about the insurance. That's our next step. Is it such a thing? Is self-insured possible to arrange? $2 million every year now. I'm here going to be 4.5 years. So it's a lot of roof we could fix and everything. Insurance is a problem. They are close, some lawyers. Exception, I'm sorry to that. So the shareholders, they don't like my suggestion, but the insurance would help everybody allowed. You have to look into this, please. Is it any way self-insured subsidy possible? Excuse my English.
I don't know, Ed Chase?
It is being a self-insured somehow or lowering the insurance. $2 million it's impossible to pay from all these
I
people.
think we talked about it a little bit here. It's just one of the unintended consequences of the bill that they passed 4D going back. In addition to the letter that Commissioner Barnett wrote to Governor DeSantis asking for the special session, was it Commissioner Weiss? Who wrote the other letter? Yes. Commissioner Greg Weiss wrote a similar letter asking for a special session specifically on condominium insurance because we're falling into these exact problems because of that bill as well. So your county commissioners are trying to fix this issue two different ways, one through the insurance issue and one through the safety inspection issue.
You know, this problem started when that building collapsed in Miami Beach. That building, 12 stories high, right on the beach, okay? They had flooding in their garage. The tide would go up, and in the bottom floor of the garage, the tide would go up and the water would come up about 4 feet. And they dealt with that and had that for years, okay? That was a county problem. County inspector in Miami should have known that. And they should have gotten on those people, and they didn't take care of it. What I'm getting at is, these people in Tallahassee, all these senators, which I hope they're watching, and congressmen, there's going to be elections, and we're going to remember. We need your help. You created this problem. Take care of it. This is a mess which you have created, okay? And what I'm getting at, too, is this is more of a county problem. And the county maybe should get involved and regulate it through the county. And that every county treat it as best they can, and let those people vote for the commissioners that are going to take care of them. And hopefully the ones in the state will start responding and taking care of us as well. So you got to realize, how many miles are we from the beach? Does anybody here know? More than 3. You know? Biggest building, what's 7 stories, our highest building, 1 building, or 5? 4 stories. Well, I don't know how they got the 3 stories and how. But you know what, most of them are 3. We got one that's 4. And you know what, they're killing us. We're passing strict regulations, gave no consideration to all the retired people that no longer work. I'm not retired yet, but I'm over 65, and I'm gonna have to work another probably 10 years to deal with all this stuff. You know, we don't need this. We're on fixed income, all right? So whoever developed these laws, all these morons in Tallahassee, and we're too much in the rush, and we got a governor that wanted to run for president, and they just shoved this down and said, this will take care of everything. No, it's messed it all up even more, okay? This has to change, and it's got to be done now, and they got to meet now. And if you don't, we're going to remember this in the next election and the ones 2 years after that. Thank you.
Thank you, and I agree with you 100%. There are solutions counties can come up with, but we need the immediate fix right now, more time. Only the legislature give us more time so we can, at the county level, find a solution. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, please.
Where I come from, and I think most of the world and maybe some of the other states in America, when you build a condominium complex, reserves are paid from day one. So if we had started paying reserves of $10 per unit per month 35 years ago, as is the law in the rest of the world, we would not have had this problem. But our legislature let it slide, and therefore we are suffering because of their incompetence. Just to take it one step further, to give myself as an example, I have a small one-bedroom. When I 3 years ago, I was paying $300 a month. Now I'm paying $1,000 in 3 years. It's ridiculous. But I understand we need reserves, and I understand they have to be built up. However, when the legislature screws up, for them to fix their own mistake and then try and impose a 2-year period upon us to do so is unreasonable and unfair. And for our governor, bless his heart, to call on the legislature to fix up their screw-up, which he signed the bill in the first place. What the hell is wrong with him? It needs to be fixed, it needs to be redone, and the legislature needs to hear from people like us to explain to them that in their infinite wisdom, we should be given a reasonable period of time, probably 5 years, in order to fix something which, in the case of the building that fell down and all their problems, does not apply to us even remotely. And by the way, we unfortunately live 2.8 miles from the sea, so we are within the 3-mile radius. So if you go for a quick walk for 5 minutes, you'll be out of the radius. That's how close we are. And the highest building that we have is 4 stories. I think 3 stories. 4. So the highest building we have is 4, and they've imposed how they got to 4 as comparing to a building of 12 that fell down. I will never know. But this is the legislature that we've got. We need to change it. We need to attack them with everything that we can. And if you need help, just call on us, and I'm sure we will be there to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody on this side of the room?
I feel Charles, I don't live in this community. My mom lives for 20 years, and this is the first time in my life that I have to pitch in and help her. And I'm thinking, I'm not the only daughter or son that is being helping these people here. So this is not only affecting the community, it's affecting sons, daughters, nephews, people that have to pitch in for them to not lose their home.
Thank you very much.
I've been here 12 years as a full-time resident. It's my understanding that the full-time residents are more or less a minority in terms of the number of owners. And several years ago, I applied for a HELOC loan to make improvements to my unit, none of which have been done for 50 years since the building was built. At that time, 42 or 43 years. To change the windows out, put the hurricane shutters on, and I couldn't get any reasonable property insurance. And I suspect there are a great many people in the auditorium in this place that have no individual property insurance besides that which we pay as a common area. And keep in mind that every building is its own condominium organization, its own condominium building. So if the majority of people here have no property insurance, whatever it is that you do with this reserve study, and frankly, I think having 100% reserves is a good idea, but when you've got a situation where the entire state is an excess of inventory for sale units, and a deficit of demand. My calculation as a retired person is when my fees go up from $420 a month in 2 years to $1,100, do I stay? Do I manage? Will I have no property insurance in my building? How many other owners have no property insurance? You might remember a couple of years ago in Kings Point, there was a big storm. One building had a tornado hit it. How many people can walk away when they have no property insurance? How many people, this is their home, their full-time home, and that's it? What are you going to do when you can't get property insurance? You cannot solve this business with reserves. And there's a lot of opinions, a lot of ways to look at it. You can't solve it without solving the property insurance mess that the same legislature created itself. The first year when this law was made, it was a mess. One of the worst written bills I've ever seen was a land use planner. The second year they had a session that was supposed to be about fixing it. They made some tweaks. Not all of them were positive. But by God, they made it worse. And they did nothing but give away the store for the insurance companies in this state. And why in the world can't we have some kind of statewide catastrophic insurance company? There's a local congressman that has introduced it in the Congress. It's got not one supporter, one co-sponsor. For years, Bill Nelson, as our state senator, introduced bills and tried to get it done for a national catastrophic plan. I don't know why in the world you can't take citizens and reimagine it as a way for people who want to be in that pool of insured people to go ahead and make a catastrophic insurance program for people who are not served by banks, are not served by the insurance companies. If we want to be in a catastrophic plan, why not?
Amen. Thank you.
Coming and trying to help us to go further up to the legislation. You said to talk about ourselves and what our problem and our issue is, so that's what I'm going to do. I was married straight out of high school at 18 years old the next weekend. I was married 40 years. I worked all those years. I had 2 children. I had to get a divorce after 40 years of marriage. I didn't have anything but one home left. My son had been sick for years, and he passed away only 3 years ago. I had to spend money out for that. My insurance, because I have 19 things listed on my PCP that is wrong with me. So I have to have the highest secondary insurance for Medicare in order to have surgeries, and that doesn't cover the medications, dental, hearing, vision. I have hearing aids, which I bought myself, but I never got on disability. They would not give it to me because I looked good. Yeah. So anyway, I came down here 8 years ago from November 1st for this to be my forever home, I thought, until I passed away. I had to sell my home up in Pennsylvania. And how far do you think a home in Pennsylvania to live here full time goes? Not too far. 8 years? I tried to get a loan because I didn't know this was going to happen. They didn't give us a forewarning. I spent $25,000 on my balcony. I have a long balcony with hurricane windows, and they made me put in a new door and take a wall out, saying my convertible bedroom was now a bedroom. The very next month, I get landed with 65% or 100% to vote on. So I went from $293 for my HOA fees to $600.77. And then July 1st comes this year, it's $1,150 a month. I went to try to get a loan because my income is less than my expenses. I can't even get a loan at a bank. I don't have children. I do not have sisters. I do not have nieces and nephews. I don't have parents. Most of them's all gone. Where am I supposed to go?
30 seconds.
This was to be my home. So that is my personal problems that you wanted to hear about. And with 95 units, maybe even more now, how am I going to put mine up for sale? Which I decided I was going to put it up for sale. Only God's intervention would be able to sell my home. And I do have faith in God to take care of me and to take care of each and every one of you. And also this hurricane that's coming. I prayed for all of us in our complex. And I praise God that He has gotten me this far when I should have been dead many times. Thank you.
Like she said, this is why we're here. I bought this condo because it is a garden of Eden to me. It is absolutely beautiful here. It is one of the best places I have seen in this area. The way it's made, the way it's been taken care of, the way that we paid assessments to do all that we have done here. And a lot of people that have been here over 5 years have already done all this that we're asking to reserve for. We already did roofs, we did pavements, we did seal coating, pipes, concrete, all that was done. So here we are having to put money ahead again for something we already did. My story is that my son was killed, my only son, and so I bought this home here with insurance money that I got from his death. So when I come here, this is the place he wanted to be, in Florida. And I come here and I live out for him and for myself. It's a beautiful place. I have redone it, had some insurance, things happened and the insurance paid. But now I am 70 years old and I'm having to work again, and I can't even come here because I'm in Valdosta working so that I can pay here. And I thank God I can do medical interpreting, and I'm also a registered nurse, but I'm retired. And that helps me pay for here. But I live in Valdosta, paying $1,100 now a month. I can't do it. And now with insurance coming up, I don't even know where I'm going to get it, so I pay what I can pay. And the main thing that I want to say is that we're all in this together. We all need help. I don't agree in loans from the banks because we don't know, historically, money disappears, okay? And we don't know where it goes. And it's not the board disappearing it, it's just the banks disappearing it. The banks are closing. You read it all the way in the newspaper. Bank closing, bank closing, bank closing. They invested in properties and they're losing money. And that is an issue. Another issue is a way to help us save our units. I'll hurry up. And the way to help us save is to help us temporarily find somebody to roommate with us, or even rent it for a year at a time, for a couple of years till we catch up. We need help. We need the assistance to be able to survive. It's an emergency order from somebody to please allow us. I know the board's got to make decisions, and it's got to go through this process, and I go, but we're needing the money now. Right now with the hurricane, I have to put all that I bought on credit cards because I can't buy all the emergency supplies. And so I love that you all can come here today. Somebody gave me his number and I was able to call, and he immediately, I was told he could come. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We hit a lot of my points, but I I just wanted to say, one law, one size does not fit all. That building that collapsed has nothing to do with the way ours are constructed. And that building that fell was built incorrectly, and that's why it fell. And it was poorly maintained. But they should do more building inspections on the front end, not trying to do on the back end. And the last thing I have to say is, I don't know how the reserves are calculated, but if we're doing 100 reserves to fix everything like in any given year, then why do we have a life cycle of a roof lasts 25 years? Why do we need that sitting in a reserve account every single year? It should be budgeted 25 years, and each one of our buildings has its own HOA. So we could literally do a life cycle on every repair for each one of those buildings and then calculate the forecasted HOA and not have 100% sitting there for roofs, for sewers, for this, whatever it has to be repaired. That's all I have to say.
My mom was here in the 80s. I come as somebody who's, like many others, the amounts are becoming intolerable. When I moved in here, my mom had passed away, and unlike what's going on now, they're not foreclosing, and they're collecting what they can. My mom got foreclosed on because my sister didn't pay a couple bills. Because of her death, it went behind, it got behind. Although I was living in the unit, and no one would tell me about it. So they foreclosed on me. And I had to file bankruptcy even after I offered the board. This was, like I said, 14 years ago. Or no, in 2019. 3 offers and compromise, which the board would never accept. So now my payment is about $1,800 a month. And that's what I have to pay after 4.5 years of my maintenance going from about $375. Now it's with the bankruptcy, which was only attorney's fees and this interest fee and that interest fee, which because the board wouldn't accept my payment, my offers. Now I'm here paying almost $1,800 a month payment. And if I don't make it, they will foreclose on me. Unlike which is going on with all of you right now. They're not foreclosing on any of you, even though you haven't paid 100% of what you're supposed to pay. Now what I want to say is, we all need to get smart and realize, do we need this property management company? Is it doing anything for us? Or are we wasting our money on having to pay way and above what we used to pay as self-managed? I personally think it's a waste of money. Our accountant told us it would be par on equal what we were paying. I can't even get my railings, hand railings clean. They're filthy dirty. For the past 3 weeks, I've been telling the office. So, you know what? This and that, I don't see that anything is worth paying what we're having to pay for this property management company. One other thing, I am representing Joel Flores, a Democrat, to you in District 3. I emailed the office last week, and they refused to answer my email to have fair and equal representation. I just want to let everybody know. Thank you.
The public knowledge that our governor in the last couple of months has specifically publicly stated that he would like to see a special session by the end of the year. It's also my understanding that under the Florida Constitution, that the governor can call a special session himself. I'm wondering why we're not putting a little pressure on the governor to bend some arms and make that happen. He can make it happen. He has the power to make that happen. And he's pointing it out in the legislature. The legislature's pointing it out on the governor, and everybody's just passing the buck. But But the governor does have the power to call a special session. I want everybody in this room to know that. But the gentleman up here said, think about that when you go in the voting booth, that the legislature and the governor passed this unanimously. And like Stephen said, the governor did pass it and he did sign it. So they're all responsible, but the governor has the power to call a special session. He can publicly vote all he wants to say, I would like to see a special session, but he has the power to call one. And he has the power to bend arms and get things done. And he's not doing it. So that's all I have for now. Thank you very much.
And it's impossible, absolutely impossible to sell it, because who's going to come in and pay $1,000 HOA, and then whoever is moving in has to have all this money to get in there? It's impossible. Nobody wants to buy it. I've dropped my price twice already. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? Leave it here and go somewhere else with no money in my pocket when I've been there for over 20 years? So this to me is a disgusting situation, and something needs to be done about the requirements in order to move into Lake Clarke Gardens. Yes, it's a nice place and all of that, but when you can't even sell your place unless you want to give it away and then go to live in your car or in a park or something. It's not fair, and that's what I'd like to see some attention to.
2 years ago, we were paying $400 for the reserve. Now I'm paying $695 plus $500 for my maintenance. It's like $1,265, and our income is like $1,500 for the two of us. And there's no way that we can keep paying this money. So we have to. When I went to the meeting before, I asked them, why can't you spread it out in 4 years instead of 2 years? And they said, oh no, the state of Florida requires that we have to have $10,000 in reserve by the end of the 24. And then next year, it's going to be another $10,000 by the end of 25. And where do we get the money? Nobody cares. Mike Barnett is helping us, and I'm so grateful that he came here. I'm so thankful that people are here to help us. We need help. Thank you.
We're going to have a final call and take a few more questions if anybody has questions, but here are some more comments if anyone has anything they'd like to share. But I just want to make sure that you know the people who are here to help set this up. Laura Henley in my office, Commission Assistant. Sasha Lopez, all the way on this left side here. Kayla West, and she's going to explain the QR code that you can use to download the petition that you'd like to sign online if you're not able to do so, if we ran out of petitions. I also want to thank Ed Chase and Casey Denny, our Legislative Affairs and Intergovernmental Team, Community Engagement, as well as the fine people who work in our television station, TV20. Thank you very much to our television crew, our county employees. Thank you. Of course, thank you very much to our law enforcement protection in the back. I'm grateful you're here to keep law and order for us. To Jay and the board of directors and all of you who helped make this happen. I want to take a few more comments, if you would, please.
My name is Mary Dennis. My comment is I've been reading lately and a lot of the developers are asking for the state to condemn a lot of these buildings. Well, my first thought when it started was developers are behind this. And that's something, because they lobbied the legislators. So now we need to look at what they're actually doing to us. I think that the governor just started with that building that collapsed. Why did it collapse? It was a bad bill. 4 structural columns were missing. 2 big planters that were not in the plans, and this was from National Geographic on TV the other day. Those things did not belong on the pool deck, and that was all added to it. And this was part of the reason for the collapse. We have been assessed many times for work to be done here. It was in 2008, I think that every single unit paid at least $10,000 for all the concrete work. All our balconies were taken care of. We've paid a lot of money. We pay as you go. We've done a good job. Now they want us to invest in the future. which we're not going to be here. And my kids don't want to live here.
I think from what I've heard everybody say, I think one of the best solutions is not to borrow more money that we don't have to pay because we got to pay it back, okay? That's just my opinion. The main thing I think we need to do is to put it for postpone what we're doing. Go ahead and keep paying some reserves, but take a little longer to do it, like maybe 5 or 6 years to 20, 30, and that'll get us to pay for what we need to do as the milestone inspection. Some of those things are due to be done and organized, so we'll have the money. And we can also pay a lot less for a little longer, but we would possibly afford to keep our places and have our property values go up, because right now they are way, way down. That's it.
Thank you.
I've only been here for 3 years. Started out at 286, including TV and internet. Went to 605. Went this year to 900. My property taxes, which includes garbage service, and I work for Waste Management, so I can see it on the tax bill, doesn't include any bulk pickup. I said something to them, I needed to get rid of a couch, and they said, oh, that's $100 for the people I'm paying to pick up my trash, to come in here and especially pick up that couch. And those people in the office, they can always give you an answer, but they don't really know what's going on. And I'm getting it enforced. It'll be final on the 10th. And my wife and I bought this together. And I own, at that time, together with my wife, we own 3 pieces of property in Palm Beach County and are paying taxes on all of them. And it doesn't seem like our tax dollar is doing us any good when the state is basically taking the rest of our money away from us from laws like this. And I know how these buildings are built. My mother-in-law lived here in 1978 when I got married. And my father-in-law paved this complex when it was built. He owned an asphalt company in this county for 25 years.
All right, thank you all. Kayla's going to explain how the QR code works. Thank you, Kayla.
Hi everyone, thank you guys for coming out here today. If you haven't had a chance to fill out the petition, we have some in the back, but you can also fill this out electronically. Just bring out the camera on your phone and just point it towards the QR code and you'll see a link. You tap on it and you'll be able to fill out the petition electronically. Thank you.
And please share it with friends and other condominiums or people who haven't been here today.
Thank you again, and it's incredibly important that you continue to make yourselves heard, not just my office, but our legislators, your state representatives and senators. Reach out to them, call them, make sure they know that you want a special session of the legislature. We're going to be doing everything we can to continue putting pressure on Tallahassee so that they get together and find a solution to this problem. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.